Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call, all present. Attest to publication. I saw it online. Am I not going the right way
No,
here?
you are.
Oh, okay.
I saw it on the website.
So did I. Okay, thank you. Paul, would you please read the district mission, vision, and values?
Bangor School District mission, mission, vision, and value statements. Mission, Bangor Pride, a small school building big futures. Vision, an innovative small school creating excellence through personalized learning and relationships for all. Values, student-centered, small class sizes, continuous improvement, professionalism, opportunities for all, safety, foster community, sustainability.
Thank you, Paul. Public comments? Okay. Thank you. Approval of the minutes. We'll start with open session on December 16th.
Julie, if I could just, because this board docs format's a little bit new, so if you look on it, Jean did a great job of indicating where the attachments are. So, for example, on approval of minutes for open session 12/16, you'll find those on page 15. So anywhere where there's an attachment, that you will see a page number and to refer to, okay?
Thank
So,
you.
Jean did that, and I thought, great idea. So you exactly know where you can find the documentation. So thank you.
Thank you, Jean.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Lori to approve the January 20th, or excuse me. Now I lost my place here. The
December 16th.
December 16th minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Closed session, December 16th.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Lori to approve the closed session from December 16th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Special meeting, December 17th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Paul to approve the special meeting, December 17th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Special meeting, December 29th.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Go ahead, Tina.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Tina to approve special meeting, December 29th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Special meeting, January 13th.
I'll make a motion to approve. I can second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Tina to approve special meeting, January 13th, 2021. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, we'll start with the approval of financials. We'll start with the vouchers.
I know that there were a couple questions, and I believe Angie responded. And so, but if there are any other questions on the vouchers, please let me know.
My question was answered, and I will move to approve the vouchers.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Lori to approve the vouchers. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Activity account.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion made by Tina, seconded by Shelley to approve the activity account. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Financial report.
Julie, there isn't much in there this month, just a few things, a special ed aid, also a in terms of revenues, food service program, that was for September and October. So our total revenue was $102,233.04. Total expenditures, $588,960.54. So our balance on hand as of January 15th was $574,029.85.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the financial report as presented. Second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Tina to approve the financial report as presented. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, old business, we don't have any. Committee reports. We do not have any committee reports either. Board President's agenda. We're going to talk about the revenue limit, to exceed the revenue limit. Dave, did you have any comments you wanted to add?
Sorry. No, if in your packet, if you go to page 29, I believe. Yeah. So there are two separate questions that the board must consider. And on page 29 is the resolution, and it must be read in full. And a motion to do the resolution, then a second, and then a roll call vote. And then resolution B, which follows, is on the election date, and that's also in your packet. So if there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer it. But the first question is specific to the length and the term of the referendum, and the second one is election date. So questions?
Dave, it looks like on page 33, it's resolution A again. There is no resolution B. We've got the A twice.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. So I would, I've got the other one in front of me, and I can basically read that and then have somebody else read it after that. I'm sorry.
Any questions? We had a great discussion at our last meeting.
If there's no further comment, I will make the motion. Be it resolved by the school board of the School District of Bangor, La Crosse, and Monroe Counties, Wisconsin, that the revenues included in the school district budget be authorized to exceed the revenue limit specified in section 121.91 Wisconsin statutes, by $900,000 per year for 3 years, beginning with the 2022-2023 school year and ending with the 2024-2025 school year for non-recurring purposes.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Shelley. All in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, I'm going to do
Roll
roll
call
call vote. I'm sorry. I forgot. We'll start with Tina.
Okay.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
Motion carried 6-1. Thank you. So resolution B,
So I'll read it, and then I basically, whoever would like to then, as a board member, read it again. So this is a resolution providing for a referendum election on April 6th, 2021 on the question of the approval of a resolution authorizing the school district budget to exceed revenue limit by $900,000 per year for 3 years for non-recurring purposes. So again, this speaks directly to holding the referendum election on April 6th. So.
thank you, Paul.
I would move that we adopt the following resolution. Resolution providing for a referendum election on April 6th, 2021 on the question of the approval of a resolution authorizing the school district budget to exceed revenue limit by $900,000 per year for 3 years for non-recurring purposes.
Second.
Motion made by Paul, seconded by Joni. All in favor. We'll start roll call vote with Tina.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
Motion carried 6-1. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Moving on. Nurses report. Tammy, you want to come on down?
Okay, just before Tammy starts, we want to have this be a monthly agenda item, and Tammy won't be doing a big presentation or anything like that, but it's to give you an update on what is happening from the nurses' perspective in our school. And then obviously tonight she'll talk about the vaccine, the status of that. So it's a brief report, and then obviously any questions that you may have for her. So Tammy?
Tammy, why don't you come on down? Or maybe, or,
There's a mic right there.
yeah, why don't you use the mic, Tammy? Thank you.
All right, so recently we updated the memorandum of understanding and other emergency preparedness documents that we have in partnership with La Crosse County. Those documents were originated in 2016 to 2017, and basically it's a detailed map of our building, points of contact. Our school is a site that will be considered for a mass dispensing or vaccination site. Currently, what it's level 1A, it's called healthcare providers, healthcare workers, long-term care facility, staff and residents are currently being vaccinated. Teachers will be hopefully included in the 1B level of the vaccination rollout. Dave and I talked about sending out a survey, which was sent to staff, basically asking if they would be open to receiving the vaccine, and if they considered themselves a high risk or moderate risk or low risk priority. And then we'll be meeting Friday to talk about how we would roll that out if we are considered a site here. I also joined Weaver to assist with vaccinating staff and community. And I have 2 nurses so far in the community that have offered to also assist me with that. We have about 100 to 110 staff that we sent the survey out to. We have had about 5 or more staff who currently had their first dose of their vaccine. And basically it was people that are working in the health office. And the prioritizing of staff, that was something La Crosse County wanted us to do. So just throwing this out there, we had 18 cases in the district. We have 1 active case currently at the school. The exposure occurred outside of school, so it didn't impact anybody here. We currently have about 23 students in quarantine, staff and students. Our interventions are working. I think one of the biggest things is sometimes parents will call in their student sick and kind of vague about their symptoms or no symptom reporting. So that requires a lot of follow-up. I observe the kids at both schools. They're doing great. They're wearing their masks. They're physical distancing. I worked at the basketball game last night and checked parents in, and I was really impressed with, everybody came in with their mask on. They sat apart on the bleachers. they were very appreciative for letting us host the game from the people from Sparta. And it's great to see the kids in school. I think all of our hard work through the year is paid off, and now we're seeing that all the planning is really working. So, is there any questions?
Thank you, Tammy. Very helpful. Thank you. Okay, school board candidates for the April general election. The Village of Bangor, Lori Horseman, Seth Hemmerschbach. Village of Rockland, Tina Matheson. And at-large seat, Lisa Horseman. And the election is on April 6th. Okay, our superintendent search timelines, just a couple of reminders, some dates here. We all received an email from Sally wanting us to sign up for the platform that will be holding our applications. She would like us to have that done before Friday, January 22nd. You really just need to load your password, so it's pretty easy. The second thing, I sent an email about the questions. Please get those, your preferences, return those to me via email by Monday, January 25th. And we will meet on February 2nd at 6:30. I confirmed that with Guy today. We will meet via Zoom. And we will review the questions, and we will also look at the review of our application and choose our first round interviewees. And that is again on February 2nd at 6:30 via Zoom. And then just to, since we won't meet again, just to remind everyone, our first round of interviews will be on February 8th and 10th, and we will start at 5:30, and that will be face-to-face. Any questions? Thank you. Okay, next, outside groups, use of facilities.
So in your packet on page 37, you'll find the document that we will discuss tonight. So just a reminder that the outside use of facility, we were looking at on a quarterly basis. And so this January meeting was the quarter date that we were going to discuss this. So administratively, we talked about some different categories. So in your handout, you know, instead of looking at groups, you know, as a whole, we felt that it was important that if we are going to eventually open it up, that there are certain categories that very honestly take a higher precedence. So obviously we feel the biggest thing is to keep our kids in school, keep our in-school sports on track, but then looking at the other categories. So we came up with health and safety. So obviously we have hosted the Red Cross blood drive, and once approximately every 3 months, as Tammy said, we may be a vaccine site. In the past, we've ran a community flu clinic. So I do want to say that these bullets are not exhaustive, but they're examples of what we came up with in terms of under each of the categories. Public safety, we did have the police department okayed between Mr. Mullenberg and I, police drug training up at the old school. Again, what that allowed, once that was done, our custodial crew to get up there and clean it and make sure it was completely sanitized. But public safety, that's one example of outside groups that I think we have to consider in terms of going forward. Public service, We have, as you know, in November, they used the old school for election polling stations. They have asked about the possibility in February of using this particular area for a community meeting because of the downtown project work. I told them that's at this point up in the air, but again, that's a public service thing that, you know, again, we would have discussion on.
Dave, would they want to use this,
Yeah, this
the
facility. So,
cafetorium? Okay.
yes. So co-curricular groups, again, a lot of these tend to be middle school, high school. We have Mr. Mullenberg and I, and then we've talked about certain groups presenting plans that if they can socially distance, if the group numbers were low enough to hold these things. Now we haven't had forensics yet. Obviously solo ensemble we haven't had. So there are a couple of them that if they want to hold some of those meetings, they have to run it by Mr. Mullenberg and myself or Mr. Johnson. We also had some school affiliated ones like PTO. Again, we haven't done some of the things that we would have done in the past, like a winter carnival or Halloween. Booster Club has not used the facility at this point within the building. Music Backers is another example, even though they have not asked at this point to hold any type of activity. And then we just listed some of the community groups that in the past have used our facilities. And at this point, we have said that they're not able to use the facilities. In fact, I just had an email today from the Lions Club asking about some modified type of pancake breakfast, but I said at this point, that is not, we wouldn't be approving that. Then the last group, the athletic groups, and again, this is not an exhaustive list. It's Great Northwest, different youth basketball groups, AAU basketball, flag football, youth wrestling, adult open gym, Bangor Redbirds. Obviously, they have not, we have not allowed them to use the facility. So as I said, the first priority, we believe very strongly, is keeping our kids in school and then running the sports programs that we have within the school. The difficulty that when we start to allow outside groups in, what are the sanitation protocols that we could guarantee that they would do? I mean, we have spent a tremendous amount of time with our custodial staff, maintenance staff on sanitation protocols. So to say that a group could come in and they could just say, oh, we'll clean up and all that. Again, the protocols that we've developed are much more exhaustive in that. If you were to allow outside groups, do you want then to have our custodial staff be responsible for cleanup after that? You have to look at, okay, how many hours would that be? How cost-wise, what would that run? So at this point, we believe other than our school groups and health, safety, and public safety to not allow it. Now, one of the things that we would, I'd like the board to consider, instead of doing this quarterly, let a standing agenda item each month. Now, I am hopeful somehow that between now and February, there might be something. I don't know what that would be that would allow us to bring groups in, or from February to March. Again, I don't know what those things would be, but at least I think it gives groups a sense that we're discussing it. And if there are things that we can do, that we would consider it and, you know, going forward. So that is our recommendation at this point, is to move it to discussing it every month at the board meeting. Secondly, make the priority of keeping our kids in school the top priority, obviously, and then the sports programs that we do have, making them a priority in terms of use of facility and sanitation, which we can control through our maintenance and custodial groups. So that is our recommendation. So questions for, and again, if there's towards Rick or Mike, if it's elementary based or middle school, high school based. So
So at the elementary level, there is no school-sponsored sport, correct? I mean, it doesn't start until middle school.
Correct.
So anything that those children are coming to is AAU or Great Northwest or whatever.
And rec,
So,
right?
Yeah, Park and Rec as well.
okay. And as far as the co-curriculars, well, I feel those are school. I mean, and those are smaller groups. So at this point, we are allowing them as long as they come with, I mean, like, FFA, as long as Mr. Bierbauer has a plan and he brings in 10, 12, 13, whatever students.
Correct, and he has had FFA officer meetings already. And for Wisconsin Honors Choir, we did have 4 students come in last weekend that didn't have internet, so it was virtual. So they were in the individual rooms supervised by Ms. Thummel as well.
So at this point, it is truly outside groups that have not been allowed.
at this point, Joni, the only 2 activities that have been is the Red Cross blood drive. And then the police dog training. That has been it so far. Other than the polling stations, I'm sorry, in November. And I assume that they will ask again in April for us to do that.
Just because I don't have small children, does this mean that Great Northwest is not happening, or are these families going elsewhere, or what can anybody tell me about that? AAU?
I
mean, are
think
they
they're
just-
happening. I think that they're happening. I just don't think that they're able to practice here.
Okay.
And I know that you received a letter from a parent regarding, basketball practice, Great Northwest. And again, I feel for them. Obviously, one of the great things of our school is it is used by lots and lots of groups. And I think that's great. And I'm hoping we will get back to that. But at this point, and I should let you know that, we have talked with the Scenic Bluffs, and, those schools are doing the same, not allowing outside groups. And same thing with a number of the schools in our La Crosse County.
Dave, are you looking at this similar to how we brought the kids back, that you would do a phased in approach? Like kind of what you're talking about right now is we're kind of saying health and safety, public surface, and co-curricular and school affiliated things would be ones that we would look at right now, provided that they had the right protocol.
Right.
And then the next step might be the community groups, and then the next step might be, is that what you're thinking, or?
Yeah, when we put this list together, Lori, that's what we were, because we felt by just having one big list and all pick and choose, at least let's categorize it and try to prioritize. So yeah, that's.
Any other questions, comments?
So I think we received 5 or 6 letters from people wanting to use the building, not just one.
Say that again.
I
Jen.
said, I think we received 5 or 6 letters from people wanting to use the building. I know I did, wanting to use the buildings. I'm assuming you all
I
did
got
too.
3. I got
I
3, Jack.
received 3.
Okay. I can look. I didn't look before I came. I think of, write down the names. I can check real quick. Anyway, of those groups, I would say, first of all, I have a lot of faith in the people who sent those, that they could follow safety protocols. All of the people that sent letters were people that I know in some way, shape, or form. I have absolute faith that they would follow safety protocols. I also think there's a.
We can't hear you.
There it's on. There's a big difference to me between the Lions Pancake Breakfast, which has hundreds of people, versus a Great Northwest basketball practice that has 10, maybe. I mean, there's a huge difference there to me. So I don't know. The emails that I got talked about how they're willing to do the safety protocol. It's Bangor kids for their practices. It's kids that are already coming into our schools. They're not talking about bringing in other people. So I'm supporting opening it. Expectations. I think it's doable for the kids in our community, so.
I guess I have concerns about the safety protocols. Some parents may think that they're following them, but I know of students that were on quarantine and they were taken to a tournament. So that concerns me. So they're gonna be on quarantine and then they're gonna bring them here and be mixed with our kids that aren't on quarantine, even though there might be other kids from another district. Unfortunately, sometimes adults are not following the rules. And I think everyone in this room can attest that they could tell you an example of adults that are not following the rules. And then that puts our students at risk. It puts our faculty at risk. It puts our school at risk for not staying open. And our students and their education and what goes on here with our co-curricular is above the most important with any other outside activities. If we want to stay open, we have to be tough, and I don't like it. I want all kids to be involved. There is light at the end of the tunnel, but we are still in a tunnel, and when we start getting relaxed, that's when we will get in trouble. So I really think we have to be careful about reopening to outside groups. We just got our kids back. We're just providing them education. I just think we have to be very careful.
I guess I have to agree with Julie in a sense that I'm very disappointed at some of the parents in this community and some of the athletes in this community at the high school level that, yes, I was a big one that wanted the kids back. And if they cannot follow rules, all it takes is one bad apple and you ruin it for everybody. So if we can't get all the parents and all the students who want extracurricular activities to abide what we put in place, we can't continue bringing other people back and we will shut everything down, period. Education does come first. That's what we are here for. And I guess I was very disappointed in the last 10 days on things going on. And I guess until that happens, we just have 2 days that the high school kids have been back. We are very new into this. I would want to take this another 30 days. Let's evaluate, see what happens, and see if people can actually follow the rules and keep the kids in school.
I mean, once some of these athletic groups, I mean, again, well, I have to agree, the pancake breakfast is in kind of its own category. That's way too many people. But, I mean, I don't think we're planning on having any Great Northwest tournaments. It would need to be maybe only practices where you're talking a smaller amount of kids. But I also agree, we haven't had our high school in school long enough to start, you know, we have to protect what we have at this point, I think.
I like revisiting it every month. I think every quarter is too long at this point. I think people are ready to do things like this and people are willing to do things like this. What we have to do is find those solutions and what that is and explore how we can make this possible, just like opening the school. And we went through multiple different ways to open the school, from going to our municipalities and other numbers and trying to get school open. So if we can find that strategy and that way to do it, and we can have someone responsible or in charge of it, because even if you have 5 groups, you have 5 different people kind of doing that. We don't have just like an athletic director for these groups, where we have an athletic director right now for our sports and can do that. So I'm not opposed to opening school. I just think that it's one, we just opened fully for our students, which is really important, but then to find the right way to be able to do it. If we say, yes, open it today, I don't think we have enough guidance to ask people to follow. Like, we haven't even come up with a solution to open it. So I'm not opposed to this by any means. I think but we have to find a way to do that. And then who does that quarantining and what kids are combined? If it's all sixth graders playing together, well, maybe they're already in gym class and it's similar, you know? But if you're adding sixth, fifth, fourth, third, now you've pretty much, if one kid was sick, you've pretty much gotten all of the elementary school closed down in one event. So those are all of the things we have to solve, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to get them back right now. I mean, I think it would be nice if we worked on some mitigation types of things that we can, I mean, we did have several parents who did volunteer and say that they would help with cleaning protocol and all that. And I know that's not the same as our staff, but is there a way to, you know, I know one of the suggestions was to put them through the training from the, you know, staff here as to what they need to do and entrust them to do that. So is that at least something we can work towards, that maybe some of that has occurred by next month so that we could then maybe possibly move forward versus waiting until next month and then having to wait until they can get some training or whatever, and then now we're out another 45 days type of thing. So would there be a way to work on, you know, what could we do to get some mitigation going so that those coaches or parents or whatever know what to do if and when we bring them back to be able to utilize the school facilities? Because I know they're missing out on their basketball and volleyball and all those kinds of things too. But that could maybe prepare us for our February meeting to take a look.
You know, we could certainly check into it, Lori, you know, the training protocols. I'd like to talk to Mike, you know, staying our head of maintenance, and then, you know, using, you know, certain, you know, if it's stuff that we use there, okay, you know, in terms of make sure they're trained right, make sure that the usage and all that. So we can check into it. Yep.
Any other questions, comments, discussion?
I'd just like to point out that, to Lori's point, I think it's a good idea to find ways to do that, but without getting into too much detail, unfortunately, some of those same parents and coaches that are the ones advocating for this are the same ones we're referencing when they're not following the rules and blatantly doing things outside of the school, but somehow we're supposed to trust that they're going to do things right when they're in the school. So I echo the other comments. It's got to be school first, and it's too soon.
Okay, so I do need a motion about what our plan is. We have recommendations by administration.
I'll move that we follow the recommendations as laid out by the administrative team and not open school to these outside groups at this point and review it on a monthly basis.
I'll second.
Motion made by Paul, seconded by Tina. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Vote carried 6-1. Thank you. All right, correspondence.
Julie, in your packet, on pages 39 through 43, were some thank you letters and for some donations. So just wanted to draw those to your attention. A lot of nice actions by some of our community groups to help out with things such as a food pantry and other needs, especially during the Christmas season. So those are included in your packet.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, CCSA report. CCSA met first Wednesday in January. We met face-to-face. We had the annual audit report was provided by the accounting firm, passed flying colors. And we also evaluated Mr. Arneson. He's only been there probably, I don't know, he seemed like about a couple of months, but I guess it was 6 months. And of course, he inherited a pandemic and lots of changes going on at CCSA 4, but we feel like he's doing a very good job. under these circumstances and all the unprecedented events. So, and that was really it. Any questions? All right. We will start with administrative reports. Mr. Chaplin.
Thank you, Julie. First thing on there is the second Friday in January special ed count. If you recall that we do 2 counts similar to the overall school counts. The first one was October 1st. I don't know why it's not the same as the regular child count, but that's the way it is. We're currently serving 64 students. That's +6 from the October 1 with special ed services. 18 students with a 504, that's +3. The 504 plan students aren't like a necessary count, but I just include them since I'm in charge of that as well. And 2 students from St. Paul's, and there are also 4 in progress special education evaluations at this time. And the 64 is actually low because we got a couple more students this week as well. Any questions on that? No. Child Development Day is kind of not actually a day this year. So again, we're mandated under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act idea to do child find mandates, which would be to find all and identify any students ages 3 through 21 in the district. And one of the ways to do that with 3 and 4 year olds, obviously, since they're not in school, is to do what we have done in the past, which is Child Development Day. Obviously, with the pandemic, it's probably not a good idea to bring a bunch of parents and students into the school. So what we are doing this year is sending out our questionnaires to the families that we know that have 3 and 4 year olds, because Joyce does a good job of reading the birth announcements and writing all those names down and things like that and having them in the system. So we're sending those packets out to those families. And then if we flag any students based on those questionnaires, or if parents have any concerns about their 3 or 4 year olds, we can set up virtual or in-person further screenings as necessary. So hopefully we can find some of those students if those would be a need. The ACT and ACT prep, the ACT is happening, unfortunately. So we are preparing for the testing on March 9th. While there is an online option, it's not truly online, it's just on the computer instead of paper pencil, because there's no remote option to administer that. So all the students have to come and test that day, including those that are enrolled in CRVA. And that's the same across the state as well. So I know some of the high school teachers have been doing ACT prep as part of their class. And so we may look at, instead of doing the half days, they may just be integrating that a little more into their classes. Any questions on the ACT? And then the standing agenda for the state testing dates, and there is a couple of updated, they did extend the window on some of the testing as well, such as this forward exam and the Aspire.
Any questions for Mr. Chaplin?
I also did move up the ranks to email the Ron Johnson, Ron Kind, and Tammy Baldwin about that we shouldn't be doing state assessments since it is a federal mandate, because we accept federal dollars, or the state accepts federal dollars, that we're part of the No Child Left Behind mandates of doing all the testing. So any waivers would have to come from the federal government, and obviously with a new administration and new education department, that would be up in the air, but probably not going to change anything before at least the ACT testing.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Julie. First little update on elementary, where I'd like to thank the staff and all the effort that they've put forward to follow the protocols that we put in place. Elementary school is rolling along pretty good. I want to say that we've acquired 10 new students in the last 5 days. And that's an exciting thing. Mostly new families purchasing homes in the area. I'm asked the board to approve Katie Huffman's, our first grade teacher, maternity leave beginning roughly May 1st.
I'll make a motion to approve Katie's maternity leave.
Second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Tina to approve Katie Huffman's maternity leave. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. I asked the board to approve Cheryl Lane as long-term sub for Katie Huffman's maternity leave.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Paul to approve Cheryl Lane as Katie Huffman's teacher for her maternity leave. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. We had interviews last week, Thursday, for our open art position. We had 2 candidates apply and offered the position to Andrea DeBush, a student that has been working in our building all semester with Dustin Schilling. She knows our students well. I've been able to watch her teach repeatedly. She interviewed well. So I would like to ask the board to approve Andrea DeBush as our art teacher for the spring.
I'll make a motion to approve Andrea Bush as our part-time art teacher.
I have a question first. Where did you place her on the salary schedule?
It's a long-term sub position, Jack, so it's the prorated of the base, so however many days she works. So it's base times number of days she works.
So she will be here from now till the end of the school year,
Correct.
and then we'll open up or we'll advertise the position or?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. So who made the motion?
I made the motion.
Shelley? Okay.
Second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Paul, to hire Andrea DeBush for our art teacher for the rest of the semester. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Ask the board to approve summer school dates, July 12th through the 30th.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Tina, seconded by Joni to approve the summer school dates, July 12th through July 30th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson? Mr. Mullenberg.
Thank you, Julie. Just an update as well. It's nice. We've had every student in our building now for 2 days. It's definitely nice to get them back, the staff, all the protocols they've been putting into place and sanitizing and everything. I want to thank them as Mike did with his as well. I think it's gone very well for the 2 days we've had them here. Some of the things we've had to adjust with lunches and things, but so far it is working well. First on my list, I would ask that you please accept the medical leave request for Amy Close.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Tina to approve medical leave request for middle school teacher Amy Close. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Next, I would ask that you approve the leave request for Sherry Horseman, high school business education teacher.
I'll make that motion to approve Sherry Horseman's leave.
Second.
Paul second.
I
Paul.
second.
Oh, I'm sorry, Paul, I didn't hear you. Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Paul to approve medical leave request for high school teacher Sherry Horseman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jean, I'll abstain, please.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I ask that you approve Irene Bakken as the long-term substitute for the middle school language arts position.
Move for approval?
Second.
Motion made by Paul, seconded by Lori to approve the long-term sub for the middle school teacher Irene Bakken. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Next, I would ask that you approve Mark Bratz as the long-term substitute for middle and high school business education.
So moved.
Second.
Was that who made the motion?
Joni.
Joni, motion made by Joni, seconded by Shelley to approve the long-term sub for high school business, Mark Bratz. Is that right, Bratz?
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Next, I would ask that you approve Matthew Bethke as a long-term substitute for middle and high school physical education for paternity leave. The leave was approved earlier this year.
So moved.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Paul to approve the long-term substitute for middle high school paternity leave, Matt Gusky.
Bethke.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. The next one, unwillingly, I'm asking you that you please accept the retirement of Colleen Kaiser, who has worked for the Bangor School District for 34 years. Can't thank her enough for everything that she has done. I'm excited for her, but extremely sad to lose her as well.
I will reluctantly myself accept that retirement, but good luck, Colleen.
Second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Joni to approve retirement of our middle high school food service worker, Colleen Kaiser, for 34 years. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Yes, thank you, Colleen.
Thank you. And last, I just would like to give a public thank you to Leo and Rosemary Hanson for the donation of some gift cards over the holidays that we handed out to families. I did send them a thank you card as well. So thank you to the Hanson family.
Any questions for Mr. Mullenberg? All right, thank you. Okay, Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Julie. So first is a motion to approve open enrollment exception apps. We have 5 students asking to open enroll to our district from Sparta. One is a 11th grade student. Another is a 5th grade student. And then the remaining 3 are actually siblings from the same family, a 1st grader, a 2nd grader, and a 4th grader. So we are asking for approval of those open enrollment exception apps.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Paul, seconded by Lori to approve the open enrollment alternative. Oh, I'm sorry, Joni. Motion made by Paul, seconded by Joni to approve open enrollment alternative applications. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Second on my agenda is just information on the 21-22 open enrollment period. That's in your packet on page 65, I believe. And again, just a reminder, this is for new students that wish to apply in and out of our district. Once they're in, they do not have to reapply. And so during this period from February 1st to April 30th, we will receive those applications and then we act on those at the May board meeting. So if you have any questions at all on that. Okay, thank you. Then the next 3 is approved 21-22 open enrollment space availability. And I believe that is on page, you guys could probably.
69 maybe?
Yep, thank you. On page 69. And again, this is an annual approval. And what it does is it sets class sizes and limits. Now, fortunately, as you can see from the list, we have spaces available at every level. And I'll ask Mike and Rick and Josh to just talk about their specific area in just a little bit and how we figure it. So, but if there would be a situation where we were, didn't have the spaces available, by this action, it allows us then to deny an open enrollment. So, so Mike, do you want to address elementary, and then Rick, if you can do middle school, high school, and then Josh?
Can I just ask a
quick.
quick question? So is this altered for COVID protocol? I mean, are these numbers?
No.
Okay.
Question.
So the CRVA kids would impact this as well. 20 kids at the elementary school that technically would be part of this as well. But currently, we have 3 sections at the kindergarten and first grade level. You can see that our population, our current or projected enrollment for next year, our projected enrollment would include CRVA. So currently it's not that way, but projected is, these are the numbers that are in there. And I guess adjusted the class size maxes a little bit to bring some uniformity to it. There was just to have 20 as a max size at the primary grades, trying to keep those class sizes as small as possible for the benefits, academic benefits, but then expanding the 3 through 5 to 25. I guess just any specific questions for me about what the numbers read. I did talk to Joyce today. She's going to do some looking at even the younger groups, but the number of homes that are going up and that sort of thing. I anticipate that this is gonna, it was encouraging. This week we had a family that bought a home out in the Bossard edition, and then a family that I think moved into one of the Habitat for Humanity homes in Rockland. So pretty encouraging.
I think my question would go off of what Joni had. So I know we want as many students as we can, and that can be a good problem. But if we have a room that's maxed on our sizing right now for safety, and we have 2 kids that are going to join that classroom, how are we going to solve that? What are we going to do with that? I mean,
well, our adjustments for safety protocols and that is, we're efforting 6 feet of distance between students. We don't have that in every classroom. Then we ratchet it down to 5.5 and then 5 in order to make it manageable. But certainly that's a discussion to have. And remember, this is open enrollment stuff. So if people are moving into the district, we're good right now. But I think if it comes down to the open enrollment side of it, then probably, that conversation would have to happen if we felt like we were really, especially like 5th grade right now. 5th grade's full right now. Not full in terms of 25, but the classes are tight. So I think
Current 5th grade, Mike?
current 5th grade, yeah. And I anticipate next year this looking completely different as an elementary school with our moving forward from COVID and looking a little bit more normal. So I think the teachers' rooms, they figured out what they maybe didn't need inside the room this year. I've heard that comment before, but nonetheless, I think in a normal year, these class sizes are good, are manageable. Our school runs really well at about 40 to 50 kids per grade level. And once you get over 50, you got to start looking at things a little bit differently at the different level, a different number of teachers, that kind of stuff.
And I would add also, Tina, that the New Harbor Global Institute modifications are 3 feet is the minimum needed. So we try to maintain 6, but as long as we're between that 3 and 6. So
yeah, we're trying to stay as close to 6 as
We
we
are.
can, yet create space for teaching.
So regardless of what this says, if we are still in COVID protocol, we can elect to not accept an open enrollment if we would have sixth, fifth graders want to come to our district. We could say no because we can't literally safely place them. Am I understanding that correctly?
I would probably ask, on the legal side of it, Dave, that's probably the
Yeah,
question more than anything.
I think, Joni, that would have to be a question that we would have to approach legally, and I don't know if there's any talk in the legislature that gives that type of flexibility at this point. So, because.
You
there are-
mean to refuse students?
You're right, right. So I think that, we would, have action at this board meeting, and if there is something that going forward, let's say in the next 3-4 months where there'd be modifications that, at a legislative level, then we'd look at it. But this is at this point, this is what we know, and this is what we would do going forward unless there's some action by, the legislature towards this. I know that's not a clear answer, but right now, that's what we're best.
One thing I'll mention too is with the CRVA numbers, I anticipate all 20 students coming back, although that's no guarantee to that, just based on parent conversations. But I also have some families that have chosen different routes in order to be, let's say, in-person learning with different parochial schools, whether it was Sparta or Bangor or others, that theoretically they would come back to our schools, but they're not on this list. So.
And the 32 CRVA for middle and high school are included in the numbers there as well. So they are in there.
Mr. Mullenberg, did you want to talk any more about the middle high school?
No, it's relatively the same that Mike said. We're using our numbers from this year, projecting into next year. So it's not an exact science. We did add 8 students as well this month up here so far. So
Wow.
it's basically off of what we've had or what we have now, and then the sections that we've offered. And then our CRVA are included in there, like I said. So that actually gives us a little more room depending if they come back or not.
So I just want to clarify. So are we saying since Christmas, we have 8 more at the high school and 10 more at the elementary school?
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I'll be honest, we gave tours to parents and stuff after hours, and the praise for the reputation that Bangor Schools carries is driving this.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions about the open enrollment space availability?
Josh, could you just talk a little bit about the addition that we made in terms of the severe ID, please?
So if you look at the special education one, we obviously share a early childhood program with West Salem, and so their physical space and caseloads are going to determine that. So like if a 3-year-old moved in, that's kind of weird, but so West Salem would determine that. But the severe ID, we also share the severe ID program with West Salem. So let's say a student with severe needs wanted to open enroll from Sparta to here. We obviously wouldn't program them here. We would program them at West Salem. Well, we're not going to determine space availability for that, because obviously they're at West Salem. So we didn't have that on last year, but I wanted to make sure that we added that because West Salem is the determiner of the availability for that. The other ones that are, as you can see, if you recall a few years ago, I had decimal point numbers in the spaces availability because in special education, you don't, it's not a one-to-one, like one student takes more than one student's worth of needs, depending on their severity of their needs. So it's not like you can put just one and one. But since our numbers are lower, instead of spending hours calculating all that out, our spaces are open for students with LD and some of those other needs. The ones that are going to get close right now is our any students that would want to open enroll that have speech and language services. because Kari works with a vast amount of students ranging from 3-year-olds to seniors, and as well as she does do service our students that do go to West Salem. We are getting close on that, so there'd be 3 spaces available for, again, using Sparta as an example. If a student wanted to open enroll from Sparta to here that would have speech and language services, we're getting close on capping that. One of the things too would be that if we have a student that is, let's say, open enrolled from Sparta already, and then is identified as a speech and language student, that would count towards that number. And if we get over that number, or for example, like on Alaska, that they have closed for speech and language, and let's say we had a student open enrolled there, and they were identified as a speech and language student, they would deny the open enrollment at that point, and it could be in the middle of the year.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the open enrollment space availability.
Second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Joni to approve the 2021-2022 open enrollment space availability. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, known as ESSER 2. So in your packet, that's on page 67. And this is the second round of the federal stimulus bill. And so as I said, the acronym is Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, ESSER 2. So if you remember our first round, ESSER 1, we received approximately $110,000, which was, approximately what we get for Title I funding. So this funding is, at this point, they said it will be 4 times the Title I allocation. So obviously that's very good news. And that money would, when it becomes available, would be available for different types of things. And they just gave in your handout some examples, addressing learning loss among students, including cost to administer assessments, school facility repairs and improvements that are at risk of virus transmission, activities necessary to maintain the operation, continuity of services. And then it says continuing to employ existing staff at the schools. So what we have heard from our WASB and WASDA, which is the School District Administrators Association, is that money will have broad flexibility to how to use it. So we are waiting for more definitive guidance on that. But obviously it is a very welcome source of additional funding, because as you know, in terms of the ESSER 1 funding, we have definitely expended that through all of the things that we needed to address COVID. And so obviously, we'll fill you in when we receive more information on ESSER 2, but any questions? Okay, thank you. Next up is the substitute scenarios during COVID-19, and you'll find that on page 68 of your packet. And what we did is obviously when we decided to bring students back to school, which as Rick and Mike and Josh said, and Tammy said, it's been wonderful to see all of our kids back. As we have said, the difficulty that we will most likely run into in terms of positive COVID cases and quarantining. But one of the other drivers will be our staffing. So what we did administratively is we looked at, okay, in terms of if we cannot get subs from the outside, so because right now we have available approximately 2 subs in the elementary and 3 or 4 in the middle school, high school. Unfortunately, 2 out of that 3 or 4 in the middle school, high school are currently doing long-term subbing positions. So obviously, we do not have the outside substitutes that we've had in the past. I think we've always shared that even in the past, we didn't have sufficient number of subs at times, because there would be times in the elementary, times in the middle school, high school, when we were short of subs, and then we had to somehow try to fill from within. But it's obviously exacerbated by COVID. So what we did is try to lay out scenarios of, okay, if we don't have subs to cover, what do we do? So we put this list together, and you'll see the elementary of how we would cover, and then in the middle school, high school. Obviously, we are hopeful that we will never have to cancel. Somehow we'll be able to staff these, but I guess I want to ask Mike and Rick just to talk a little bit about, how they see that list, processing that list. And then there are differences, obviously, between the elementary and the middle school, high school in terms of subbing. Specifically in the middle school, high school, the teachers, the prep periods. So if we have a teacher gone during the day, Rick can go to a first hour to a teachers or teachers that have prep period and ask them to sub. It's a little bit different in the elementary. And so anyway, I'd like Mike to address how that looks in the elementary, and then Rick in the middle school, high school. So Mike?
Yeah, certainly it's a concern because our staff, teaching staff, classroom teaching staff are with our students all day long. We don't have substitute opportunities during prep times, let's say. This list is not like, first we're going to do this. It's not necessarily in that order because there's certain pieces that fit places better, I guess is the best way to say it. There's, certain skill sets that you would put here or there, that sort of thing. But getting down the list pretty quick, I'm going to have one of our substitutes is going to be long-terming in May, and we all know that personal days and that kind of thing. I think we're talking about 90 personal days in my building alone between now and May, possibly, not for sure, but certainly possible to cover that. We do have a couple of paras with teaching licenses. But again, that's trying to put that person in the right fit for their skill sets. Then we would get into kind of a group, not necessarily just Melissa and Diane right off the bat, but Title I, Ashley, our LMC director, and Piper, our music director. Piper's off, her day off because of her part-time work is Wednesdays. So that's an easy go-to for us on Wednesdays as she comes in. But I think it would be like a rotation of that. The flip side of that then, how I see it doing that is if I pull, let's say LMC or music, then during that time, the classroom teacher would lose their prep time. So they would get compensated substitute pay for that period of time if they did the music or they did the LMC time. I subbed in the LMC earlier last week for the day. So it had to be done, so it was covered. And then Matt Jacobson helped me out with that when I had to do a couple other things. So it was a team effort. On here, social worker, special ed, it's getting pretty far down the line. Our school would be pretty much empty if we got to that point, I think. So I don't know if that's necessarily feasible, but there's challenges, no doubt about it, and it happens right away at 6:30 in the morning type thing, or you got to react pretty quick. All staff, particularly my title teachers, LMC and music, are fully aware that this is kind of a rotation type thing. So I'm not grabbing my title teachers every single time so that our title students are losing that opportunity. That sort of scenario.
And at the middle high school, it's a little bit different, as Dave and Mike said. One of the things Hannah and I worked on building the master schedule to have 2 prep periods for as many staff as we could, knowing that they would be having to cover. So the minimum we have in a given hour are 3 available subs for staff. We do it on a rotational basis, unless one of those happen to be one of them gone. Then I fit in that rotation as well. Our substitutes, we do have 4 that are pretty consistent to our building. 3 right now are long-term, but along with our staff, we haven't had kids for a long time. So, I mean, we haven't had to do a lot of subbing yet. We have done some, in the few weeks that we've been here. But as Mike said, I don't see our LMC supervisor being the first go-to, obviously, if we don't have enough staff after myself. The counselor also teaches a class, so, I mean, it depends if it's not during that time, but for the most part, we should be able to handle it with our outside subs and our internal staff on that rotational basis, unless we get into a situation where we have multiple staff in a quarantine situation for a couple of weeks. Then that would be a major hurdle that we'd have to probably tap into some of these other areas. But I do suspect, as we've done in the past, we'll cover with our staff as needed. And just hopefully it's not day after day after day after day. So that's our plan.
And I do want to emphasize, this is not just specific to COVID. We're talking that people do get sick or people have to be gone. So it's just not, we're looking at this, oh, it's just COVID. No, it's those other things that we might have to address. So I guess any other questions for Rick or Mike or myself on this?
Yeah, I'm confused about we have 2 outside subs and 3 or 4 outside subs. Don't we still pay ASAP?
What?
I'm confused about, we have 2 outside subs, you have 2 on here and 3, and then Rick said 4. Don't we still pay for ASAP?
Yes, we do.
So there's more than 2 or 4 subs on the ASAP call list.
But a number of them, Jack, declined to come in.
Well, if we're truly down to 2 or 4, then we shouldn't be paying ASAP. Like, we pay quite a fee to be a part of ASAP, so we are not just dealing with 2 or 4 subs, so that pool is bigger.
We're obviously hoping that now with new graduates that ASAP list will increase. It's just that our main subs, those numbers have been diminished because of COVID. So yes, we still do utilize ASAP. And just one other thing I want to point out, Mike said, when you get to the bottom of the barrel, you see the superintendent's listed under that. So God forbid if I'd had to be in a kindergarten classroom, but I might be able to handle Spanish, but no. So a little levity there. So thank you.
Dave, do you know on any of the teachers that have kind of opted out for subbing? Will the COVID vaccine have any impact on that, do you think?
We're hoping, Shelley, that's a good question, because one of the things that we heard from DPI, they actually put out a survey in terms of the vaccine, in terms of numbers, because I think they're trying to coordinate some things, hopefully. And one of the things that in this survey, they asked how many staff you were looking at vaccinating. They said, please put in your subs, your main subs in that survey, in that number. So yes, we're hoping that when the vaccines are available, we definitely want to include especially our main subs in that vaccination priority.
So this request would be for hiring a sub full-time and go back between elementary school and high school when needed. Is that correct?
Yeah, what we're trying to do, and so if there are no other questions on that scenario, I'll go to that, Tina, then. So, no, that's fine. I guess if there are any other questions. So on page 71 of your packet, we are asking for approval of a pre-K 12 sub. And basically, it would be starting somewhere near the beginning of February. Because of COVID, a number of districts have went to doing this. So in our conference, Wanawak has hired a pre-K 12 sub, and they said it's been very beneficial. In our area, West Salem has hired a long-term sub in each of their buildings. So elementary, middle school, and high school each has a long-term sub. Onalaska does the same in all of their buildings, and then Holman also does the same. So what we would look at is this person would be available every day to our school district. And so if the need happened to be in elementary or in the high school, that's where they go. I honestly think, again, to Rick's point about the availability of teachers subbing during their prep period, probably will look more like, I honestly think it'll happen more at terms of the elementary that person would sub. So you can see on that handout, and this would be paid on a long-term sub daily rate, roughly $189 a day. So the cost for this would be $15,915. Now, we did some checking, and we do not have to pay for health insurance or stipend in lieu. So it would be the cost. Obviously, you have to pay FICA and long-term disability and life. So we are asking for approval of that position. And then we would reach out and see who we could get. Again, our people that are in place, we hope that list grows. But at this point, that's, we just don't have, we have very few outside subs. And then when you put in also that a couple of our main subs are doing long-term subbing at this point for medical leaves, it makes it even tougher. So,
Dave, I have a question. With this, would this be considered, or could it be considered under the ESSER 2 funds because
Yes.
it is due to COVID, or would that be separate?
yeah, no, this ESSER funds could be definitely used for that. The other piece, Lori, is, and Angie actually brought this up when we were discussing this administratively. Obviously, because we were, for the most part during first semester, we were virtual. Our subbing costs, what we budgeted, obviously we did not have the costs that would normally be associated during the year. So there's that money there also. But yes, we would definitely use the ESSER funds because that would fit under that, because it's very much related to COVID.
So what is the likelihood we're going to find somebody to fill this position?
We're reaching out to the universities. Rick, it's called Handshake, correct? Rick, can you speak to that?
Sure.
So,
It's an account where all the students, they check, it's kind of a job board, and it's specific to their majors. And I did send it out to, I have an account, I sent it out to all the state universities, along with Winona State University and St. Mary's and Viterbo. So all the students have, we're listed on there for substitutes.
So is there any chance any of our regular subs would want to move into this position?
there could be, Joni, but I'll be honest, I would prefer to have the flexibility of having them available and bring somebody else in that probably wouldn't normally have been in our pool. So.
But you couldn't deny them the opportunity to
No,
want
no,
it. Okay.
but it'd still be a management decision that what we think would be work the best. So, but yes, they could be considered.
And quite honestly, I'm surprised more schools didn't do this early on. I mean, not that you're necessarily going to be able to find it, but I know there's a lot of districts that have done this right from the get-go.
So this person would just come every day and find out where they're located. They would, and we always have a sub in one of the buildings every day at either location. So there's a need regardless, and they would always be used.
Yeah, I think you'd be honestly, Tina, hard pressed to find a day that there's not a sub or 2 or 3 in each building, so.
Just hypothetically, what happens if you don't need them when they come in one day?
I got plenty of work for them to do. And I'm serious about that because I would, primary grades, getting some more attention to the learning numbers, learning letters, learning words. That's our stuff. It's a very real challenge to get some of those youngsters one-on-one attention that we could certainly put something together for them.
Okay.
And two, I always think about the periodic appointments that people have. They might need, might not be able to get here till 10 or may need to leave at 1.
How are you going to manage this when someone puts it in the morning and ASAP, because you're still using ASAP, no sub needed because you won't want you won't want to go out to subs right away because your first one doesn't need to go. Or you'll end up with 2 subs.
That we could end up with 2 subs.
If a teacher is sick at 6 a.m. and they put in an ASAP, unless they put no sub needed, ASAP's going to call for a sub.
Right.
But your first sub, you don't want a sub. If you're paying someone to sub, you don't want that.
Right, I mean, I think that we would, but there still would be use for that sub, if ASAP called and that person accepted it.
But then you're paying 2 subs for 1 sub job because theoretically you're hiring this person. So the first person that calls in sick is covered.
Correct.
So you don't need a sub. You only need a sub if you have 2 people calling sick. How are you going to manage that on ASAP?
Well, again, we can talk about that scenario, Mike and Rick and I, so.
Because you don't want every single day from now to the end of the year paying for 2 subs when we only need 1. You're
But
saying
I
every
think, Jack,
day.
I think that you realize that it's not going to be just 1 absence a day. There's multiple absences. So we need to come up with a way to figure that out, correct? On ASAP.
I really think that should be addressed before we approve it, because if it doesn't, we're paying for 2. Let's see, what if there easily could be days when there's only 1 sub needed. And if ASAP automatically calls a second sub, we're paying for 2 subs all those days. Then we're paying $15,000 for not much. I mean, I think it's a very real question. Every single day that could happen. There needs to be a concrete.
Needed.
I agree, but how's a teacher going to know that at 6 a.m.? They're not going to know if their co-teachers have called in sick.
We will have to figure that out.
I think what we're talking about is basically a float position. And if there's money's being made available to the district, I don't think anyone has ever complained that there's too much attention being paid to our kids. So I have faith in the administrators that they can find valuable work should we have 1 extra body in the school every day. I don't think it's I understand the point, but I think it's much ado about nothing, to be honest. If we've got money to cover this, we found a lot of work for a lot of people during the virtual schooling time, and we all thought that was worthwhile. Again, I don't think having an extra body in the school with monies being made available because of the COVID situation is a bad idea.
Any other questions?
The ESSER is a done deal. I mean, it's guaranteed.
Yes, it is guaranteed. We're just waiting, Joni, on the guidelines to come through, but it is definitely guaranteed.
I will make the motion that we go ahead and approve the long-term substitute plan as proposed.
And I'll second that. Motion made by Paul, seconded by myself, to approve the pre-K through 12 long-term substitute position due to the substitute shortage during COVID. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried 6-1. Thank you.
Okay, next, second Friday in January student count. You can find that on page 70. So we do 2 student counts a year. The first one is the third Friday in September, and the other one is the second Friday in January. And what those numbers are used for is to figure out your state aid. So on that page, we are, and when I use the word full FTEs, it means full-time equivalency. That's different from head count, which just simply means the people in the building. So the FTE is important because that's the number that determines your aid. So I'm happy to report that we are up 6.6 students. And the reason you get a 6.6 is that 4K is counted a little bit differently. So, so we are up 6.6 students in terms of FTEs from September, which is very positive. And then, as Mike and Rick said, we definitely have had in this past 3-4 weeks a number of students come to our district. So the student count is positive for FTZs for January. Questions? Okay. Next township meeting attendance, I just want to let you know that I attended the Town of Bangor meeting on December 21st and talked about the state of the school and a number of different things. Very positive meeting out at the Town of Bangor. And then obviously, since you passed the resolution for the referendum, I will be visiting those townships again in March to talk about the referendum. So, but again, very positive feedback from the Town of Bangor. So,
Thank you, Dave. Celebrations.
Julie, I'd like to celebrate having all of our students back for sure. It's been great to have them back in the building and celebrate the hard work of the staff and everything that they've done to have that prepared and running smoothly.
Ditto. I celebrate our students and our staff. Like I said before, we have to believe there's light at the end.
I'd like to mention and celebrate the new board docs format. I think this is long overdue. It's a change to get used to it, but again, long overdue. And I think it serves many purposes, including answering the questions that have been thrown out about transparency. So thank you for the efforts put into that. I think it's a good system.
Thank you, Paul. Anybody else? Okay, removal of items from the consent agenda.
I'd like to take subject B to closed session.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Shelley, seconded by Lori to move section B to closed session. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. So can we pass A?
yes, you may. Yep.
And there's a, Rick has that listed on page 72, the credit or the college courses.
I'll make
Adjourn to closed session under Wisconsin statute 19.85, para 1, para C.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Paul, seconded by Joni. We'll do a roll call vote, starting with Tina.
Aye.
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 We are now adjourned to closed session. Thank Okay, we are back in open session. And we have one of the consent agenda items remaining. Consent agenda line 2.
Motion to approve consent agenda,
Line B.
line B.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Tina to approve consent agenda line B, middle school girls basketball coaches. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Aye.
carried.
I oppose.
Oh, I'm sorry. 6-1 pass. Thank you. Okay. I look for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Shelley to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much, everyone.